Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so very, very much for joining us today. My name is Brian Kradish, and I am with the Harris County Public Library. I'm very excited today to have our Texas A&M Master Gardener series with the Harris County Master Gardeners joining us. We do this every month on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, the third Tuesday of the month. And I think we're going to be going all the way through almost the end of the year, so maybe we end around October. But we have lots of great programs for you. Today, we are joined by Carlos Domenech, who will be telling us about soils and compost. So before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please ask lots of questions. We love questions. Put them in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear where we have viewers at. I've gotten some viewers from other countries occasionally. It's great. I don't know why you're up in the middle of the night watching a live stream about gardening in Houston, but you are. We encourage everybody to join us. Please make sure that if you are going to comment and ask questions on the video, make sure that you click on the video and ask questions to that and not on a post on another page so that we can get all of your questions. We're going to stop occasionally through our stream to answer those questions. So we'll let Carlos go for a little bit and then we'll get to what everybody says. And please like our videos. We need a lot of support so we can show everybody that these get lots of viewers and we can get a lot more people watching. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Carlos on screen with us. And good morning, Carlos. How are you?
Well, good morning. Good morning. I'm fine, and I'm very happy that we can get together and talk about compost today.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I know we're going to have a lot of questions about compost. Hopefully, good questions about compost. We were chatting about some other things that we don't want to hear about using as compost. So we'll stay away from those. And I think that's pretty much everything that we have that we need. Carlos, I'm going to let you take it away and you bring me back when you're ready to answer some questions.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Well, good morning again. And I'll tell you, I love to make compost. I've been making compost for many years. And I'm going to share with you my experience on how to make compost, and basically we're gonna do a few things during this conversation. We're gonna start with a basic description of the soils, and we're gonna then talk about the importance of compost and what compost is and what it is for your yard. And we're gonna make some compost, and once we are done making compost, then we're gonna talk about how you're going to use that compost to make your yard better, the soil in your yard a better place for those plants to grow in. So, as Brian said, I'm a master gardener with Harris County Master Gardeners, and we are always there to answer your questions and about gardening. That's what we do. So let's start moving, Brian. See, you have some additional information about how to get in contact with us. Your screen. Next slide, and this is the original name for this presentation. That I've been doing this presentation, I think, for 7 years now. The good thing about compost presentations, it's like bonsai and other arts. It doesn't change much. If you're expecting me to say something new that was discovered yesterday about how to make compost, I'll tell you what. No, it's been the same way for thousands of years, even before we even talk about compost. Compost has been going on. Next slide. And again, questions are very important. I'm here to talk about what you want to talk about, and not what I want to talk about or what I want to say. I'm just going to go about the basics of compost making. You might have questions from your individual experience, and I would love to hear that because I learned from this exchange of ideas. So when you see that sign, it's probably time for your questions. Next, Brian, and soil basics. I can say a lot of things about soil, and when I'm finished, there's going to be another universe of things that could be said about how the soils work. But I'm just going to mention the most basic concept that you have to please keep in mind next time you step on your soil in your yard. Next slide. Uh, and this is a classic description of what's in the soil. Most people think that about think about soils as just dirt and powder and sand and stuff like that. And yes, that's part of the soil. But in the soil, there's also water and air, and they're changing all the time, the amounts of each one. And the most important portion of the soil, from my point of view, obviously, is the organic matter, which is only in a normal soil is just between 1 and 5%. But I'll tell you what, in that 1 to 5%, there's everything that is needed to make your soil better, to work better. In that organic matter, you have live things. A lot. There's a universe of organisms in that soil that work to make your soil better. And there's some dead organisms in there. There's some dead bodies, and there's some dead bodies there that are thousands and thousands of years, and they cannot break down any further. Um, and that put together the air, the water, the minerals, and the organic matter, which means life and dead organic material. Uh, they all work together and provide the soil that your plants need to grow and produce. Next slide, please. In when you deal with the soils that we have in the Houston area, a lot of people call them bad. I don't think they're bad. I just think they're different, and they're very particular in the sense that they tend not to drain well, and in most cases they're deficient in organic matter. So when you're going to start a bed that you're going to designate for planting, let's say, your vegetables, this is a great opportunity to improve that soil so it works better for your plants. And the first thing you're going to say, it's a great idea in the Houston area that everything you plant, you put it on a raised bed. So raise it up from the original ground level. Uh, you can find out what's in it by doing a soil test, and the Texas A&M can do that for you, and it's not that expensive. You'll not only will know about the composition of the soil, but also the mineral content and things like that. And Brandy, I'm sure she can give you a link to for you to do that, to get instructions on how to do it. But most soils, and you know what kind of soil you have. I mean, if you look at the picture and you see and you grab a chunk of soil from your yard and you get it wet a little bit and you squeeze it's going to be like Play-Doh. Well, that's because it has a lot of clay particles in it. So we want to improve that because we want better drainage, and that's, as I said, that's problem number one. And I'll say that poor drainage kills most plants in the Houston area more than anything else. So you can add some other materials to make it drain better, and of course you should add or incorporate some organic matter, and then you have a better bed. You can do that individually, or you can buy a mix like soil, rose soil, which is commercially available, and then add a little bit more compost, and still you have a better soil than if you just start planting in your original soil. And that's when you have the opportunity to start before you have plants. But on the next slide, we also have the situation where you already have, let's say, your grass, and it's sitting on the soil that is very compacted and rich in clay particles, and it doesn't drain well, and your grass starts having problems. Well, you can improve that as well without having to remove the grass and start over again. And the best way to do that is basically to add compost. In small amounts, a quarter inch or so of compost, you can do it twice a year. Or aeration, which is what you see on the picture, it's something that you can do as well. It's not for everybody, and there are professional providers or companies that can do that for you. But if you don't want to do that or can't do it, just add compost, and your soil is going to get better. Then on the next slide, I'm sure you all know this friend. He's a super athlete. He's a super star. Let me tell you, a lot of the tomato plants that you buy for your tomato season, and peppers and plants like that, they're very good athletes. They are there because they're the best. But one thing they're gonna need is to eat. They're gonna need to eat, and if you imagine the diet of Mr. Bolt, that is I think it's 6'4", 250 pounds or so. So imagine how well he has to eat to be to perform the way he can perform. So on the next slide, I want to remind everybody that we all have to eat, and your plants, your superstar plants, those super tomatoes that you expect so much out of them, they're gonna have to eat. And one thing I hope everybody learns today is that when you feed your plants, when you feed your grass, your tomatoes, your peppers, you're not really feeding them when you add fertilizers and things like that. You're feeding the soil, and then the soil is going to pass those nutrients, or it's going to make them available for those plants to eat. So, and there's a big difference. You need a healthy soil to be able to use all those nutrients that you're putting in that you're adding uh, to make those plants grow and produce. So soil is alive. There's a lot of life under you in the soil. So keep that in mind, because everything you do in your yard, in your garden, affects those microbes and critters that work for you in the soil. So you don't want to hurt them. You want to keep them safe and happy and productive and doing their job, so the soil works better. And from then, everything is going to work better. Okay, so that's it about soil. We're going to move on to compost. The most important thing that you can add to your soil. Your soil probably doesn't need insecticides or herbicides or pre-emergent herbicides or any of those things. Your soil probably needs organic matter, and that comes from compost. What is compost? Well, it's a natural process. It's just the breaking down of all this plant material to the most basic components so the plants can use them again. In nature, this is a very slow process. I can make a lot of compost in the same space that nature will need hundreds of years. Not because I'm smart, just because I provide the microbes that do the job, that break these plant materials. I provide the environment for them to work fast. That's all it is. Nature is not in a hurry. We are. Next slide, Brian, please. In all, actually, what we're doing is we learn from nature. We know nature is doing this all the time, so we just want to do it. We just want to make it a little bit faster. In the formula, the formula for success in your garden should include the obviously the soil that you have, But keep in mind that if you add microbes, if you try to help those microbes be there and be happy in the presence of organic matter, that formula is going to be good and it's going to work good for you. Because compost, of course, is rich in microbes, and the microbes and the organic matter are going to make the soil healthier, and also they're going to fix some of the problems we have with the compaction, the poor drainage, and also the way that the nutrients are available to the plants. And I like to say this, I'm going to repeat it because I really believe it, that the best compost, the best compost ever is the one you make at home, for a lot of reasons. Because compost is compost, and it's always going to be good. And the one you make at home, well, that's even better because you know exactly who made it and what was put in and how was it handled. So to me, there's no better compost than the one you make at home. And for those that us that like to recycle and be kind to this planet, and we try to reuse and reduce the amounts of garbage and stuff like that. But imagine how much garbage goes to those landfills that could be turned into compost and make your yard, your soil better and your yard better. So a lot of good reasons to make compost. And of course, if you cannot make compost at home, well, we're very lucky in the Houston area. There's several companies that are very good, and we have good compost available in our area that we can use as well. But the best one, it's the one you make at home. Next slide, Brian, please. And yes, of course, it's free, and what a great product. It's the best product, and you can make it at home. Okay, so we can move now um, to to this young lady that seems to be in a hurry, and from all the questions that I had received in the past, the most common question is always been, how can I make my compost go faster? And so this presentation was basically put together trying to answer those questions and how to make the compost process go better. So now that we just went through the importance of compost and a little bit that we touch about the soil, if there are any questions, Brian, that I can address or you want to mention, or if you want to continue then with we're going to get ready how to make the compost go fast.
We do have a lot of questions, and I'm excited. So thank you, everybody, for typing in your questions. Keep typing them in. We're going to do a couple now. We'll do a couple in a little bit. If we don't get a chance to answer your questions on air, keep an eye, because the master gardeners that are watching, they're going to answer them in the chat after the fact as well. So if we don't answer it now, go back and check it a little bit after the program is done. I know that our master gardener friends will actually go through and answer them as they can. So our first question is, let's see, if my compost worms get into my garden, will they leave the healthy plants and the roots alone and only eat the decomposing leaves in the garden? So is it okay to have worms in your compost, I guess, really is what we're looking at.
Yes, but initially in the process of composting, you're not going to see any worms. When you are adding the fresh materials to the compost pile, and for a while, you're not going to see any worms in it. They don't participate in the early stages of composting. They'll come later on and become part of your compost pile, and then from there, if you put them in the soil, they'll be very happy to move around the soil and help in many different ways, not only physically by moving around, but by eating stuff and then processing it and then release it in a form that is available to the plants. I mean, they participate in so many ways, and it's great to have worms in your soil, and it's a great indicator that you have a healthy, rich in organic matter soil. If they're there, they're helping you. But don't expect to see them in the compost pile. At least initially, they'll be towards the end when the compost is almost ready to be used.
Excellent. And so we do have Brandy Keller and then Joanne Stevenson. They are members with the Harris County Master Gardeners, and they're going to start answering some questions on Facebook. But let me jump into my next question, which is a great one. How do you know if your compost is ready? When do you know it's ready?
Well,
our next question.
I want to skip that question because we have a slide for it.
Perfect. We've got a whole slide just for you, so keep an eye on that. How about let's do one more, and then maybe we'll jump back in. And if we're not going to hit this in a little bit, what is an easy way to get a good pH balance in our compost? So how do we get that good pH balance?
I'll answer that in probably the easiest way I can answer that question will be to say, don't worry about it.
Oh, good.
How's that? I'll probably need to know why you're asking that. Compost actually is considered a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning that when you use compost and you have a slightly acidic soil, you'll probably try to balance it, bring it back the other way, and if it's alkaline, then you'll probably try to acidify it. But that's in response to the normal functioning of the soil. But I assume that question comes from the idea that you can acidify your compost and then use it on acid loving plants. And some people will add pine straws and things, pine needles and things like that, hoping that the pH will be more acidic, which I don't think that really works, and that's not necessarily true. But yes, and I should say yes, you can manipulate the compost a little bit to make it more acidic, more alkaline, to favor certain microbes and things like that. But for the general composter, I really don't care. And if and I'm going to say one other thing, if you want to know if you have a pH problem, do not use a little instrument that you buy at the box store to measure. Do a soil test and find out if you have a problem and then how to solve it. But compost is not what you probably are looking for. Too many other good things about compost, but that's not necessarily one that you should care too much about.
Okay. Yeah, great. And if our pH questioner wants to add a little bit more information to that, we'll try to get to it later on. I think now's a great point to continue with the program, and then lots of questions we're going to start answering them. But we're gonna move on and see. I want to know if I want compost on one and how what we're going to do. So Carlos, bring me back on in just a little bit.
Right, and so we're gonna move along with the process of making the compost, and as I mentioned, from now on, everything I'm going to say, it's related to making your compost pile go faster. Remember, nature in nature is a slow process. We are the ones that want it to go faster, and yes, we can help it. We could help it. So different things that we're going to talk about: containers and temperature, the CN ratio, which stands for carbon to nitrogen ratio. We're gonna just mention that, and everybody's gonna come at this conversation with at least an idea on what that is and how important it is for you to mix your pile to balance the things that you put in your pile. Surface area, aeration, and moisture. So let's start with containers and temperature. That will be the next slide. There you go. 160 degrees. Isn't that awesome? I guess by general understanding, the minimum size that you need to create significant heat in compost pile is a cubic yard, 27 cubic feet. And I'll show you that volume looks like. Um, and remember, this is because we wanted to go faster. And this is from home. And that's what I always try to get, 150 degrees. I love to see those initial high temperatures when my pile starts. For a lot of reasons. It tells me that I did a good job mixing my materials, and I know the process is going to go faster. Next slide, containers. Well, you don't need a container, and a lot of piles are made and they work fine and they don't have a container. But just for us in this urban environment, I mean, it's just easier to keep your materials in contained instead of blowing around the yard. I mean, I don't have a huge yard, so I need to have a section where I have my containers. I can handle my containers. I can make adjustments. And of course, I like to mention that always have a container that you can work with. And that's a common problem. I have answered this question many times, and people have huge containers and huge piles of compost, and then they're unhappy because they cannot make compost fast enough. Well, I guess divide and conquer or something like that. Have containers that you can handle. Those are ugly containers. You see, my wife will never let me have those in my backyard. But let's see the next slide and then try to find some that you'll be okay. That wire container, well, it's not that pretty either. But that wire container is what I usually have here, and I have been using them for many years now. That's the volume, the space inside that container is around a cubic yard. I think it's like 30 cubic feet inside that wire container, and you can make one like that using a 36-inch tall fence wire, and you cut it at 11 feet long. You tie it up, and that's the volume, close to a cubic yard. Next slide. This is a commercially made one, and it's very nice, and that's a little bit over a cubic yard, but it's also very easy to pull up, fold it, move it around, which, I mean, it's also very useful. The next slide, please. These are just other ideas, other containers. The one on the upper left corner is a tumbler, works great. The one on the right side is too small, never really like it. We had them all at what used to be the demonstration garden at Bear Creek that I'm sure you all know that got flooded a couple of times, and so we don't have that facility anymore. But we used to have this demonstration garden, compost demonstration garden with all these containers. The one at the bottom left, I I I never thought I was gonna like it, but I eventually did. It's a different way of composting. You add materials on the top, and after a while, you open the bottom drawer, and then you get the materials out. You can screen them, use whatever it's ready, toss back the unfinished product, and it worked fine. The other one is just a bad idea. I did that. The holes are too big. The critters pull stuff out. So if you're gonna use or do something like that, because that was a homemade, the bottom right corner, those holes were too big. You have to think that the critters are gonna be interested, and yes, they were. They pulled most of the stuff out. On the next slide, um, that's a very nice one. I made that one, and with the help of other master gardeners there at the demonstration garden, and it works great. That's not only pretty and functional. This is a great way to compost, and you can have 4 compartments. You can. This is a great project. Um, but well, then you have to do it. The next slide. Sometimes you don't need a container. You can do in-ground composting, and you see what you do here. In the middle use of that bed, you prepare the planting mounds on each side, and by just moving the dirt to the sides, and then the middle you use it as the place where you put your, kitchen scraps and leaves, or just grass from mowing your grass, and you mix it with leaves and you step on it, and you use it, you leave it there. On the next slide, this is what happens. You see, you have your plants growing on those mounds that you prepared. In the center, it's where the composting is going on. At the end of the season, when the tomatoes are finished, and I'm sure you all know that the tomato season in Houston is not that long, and when that time comes when they're not productive anymore, you pull them out and you mix all this soil with the compost, and you do it again. You prepare your mounds again, and you start over, and you see no container that you have to keep or maintain. Okay, next slide. I mean, different things. Even a cardboard could be used, or if you have access to alien technology, you can get one of those space bowls and make compost in there. I've never seen one, only on TV, as we used to say. Now we see everything on the internet. But next slide, Brian. Okay, so containers and temperature, very important. Make things easier for you. The importance of temperature. We'll mention another thing about it next. But now we're going to get into the carbon to nitrogen ratio. Next slide. And this is basically the definition. The carbon to nitrogen ratio is just an information that you get on each and every plant material that you might have at home, and you're going to put it in your pile. Every plant material has a different composition, and by using the amount of nitrogen and carbon in that particular one, we try to kind of classify them as rich in carbon or rich in nitrogen. Some materials are going to be very rich in nitrogen, some are going to be very rich in carbon, and some materials are going to be basically balanced. And what scientists have found is that if you provide the microbes that are going to work for you, breaking down the materials in your pile, if you provide them with a ratio of 30 carbons to 1 nitrogen at the end of adding and mixing all these materials, that's the final kind of balance in the pile. The microbes are just going to love it. They're going to go crazy, and they're going to work faster. They're going to not only work faster, and you'll see it because you'll have a higher temperature, and things are going to move much faster. In nature, that's not necessary. It doesn't matter if the materials are balanced or not, because again, nature is not in a hurry. So things are going to break down. Doesn't matter if it's a lot of carbon-rich materials, or if it's a lot of nitrogen-rich materials. Nobody's going to balance them out there in the prairie. But for us, it is. And knowing this, and this information is available, it's amazing. You can find the ratio of carbon to nitrogen in almost every material. You just Google it, you'll find it. I always wanted to know what was the carbon to nitrogen ratio on grass that I cut and didn't use, and then it turned yellow, and I found 57 to 1. So that's what that is. That's the definition. The practical use of this information, this carbon to nitrogen ratio, is that by knowing that, you can try to balance your mix. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, in nature, nobody's doing that. It's just us. Next slide, please. So this is just a few of the common materials that you might have access to. Here at home, it's all kitchen scraps and brown leaves from the trees. Kitchen scraps tend to be high in nitrogen. The brown leaves, they tend to be high in carbon. I don't like to call materials brown and green, which is the common way of referring to them, because coffee grounds are brown. the last time I looked, and man, they're very high in nitrogen. So let's use the right terms. Some materials are nitrogen rich and some are carbon rich. And by definition, it's usually around 20 to 1 where you divide one from the other. But the important thing is that you know that all these materials are different, and what you have at home is not what I have. So how do you mix them? Well, that's a good question, and it's not that easy. But I can give you like maybe I'll give you three recipes based on experience, and of course I'm going to give you a resource that you can use to plug in whatever you have at home. I don't know. You might be the cousin of the owner of the onion processing plant, and you have bags of onion skins at home for free. I don't, but you maybe you do. So how do you know how much shredded paper you can mix with those onion skins, or what other materials you might have access to? Well, that's what we're going to talk next. Brian, thank you. So I use the term the perfect mix because that doesn't exist. You don't need a perfect mix. The goal is to get it as close as you can to 30 to 1. But guess what? If you have a lot of carbon and you are on a 40 to 1 or higher, it's still going to work. It's just not going to go as fast. And and it's also not that easy to just say, well, this one is rich in carbon, this one is rich in nitrogen. I'm going to mix them up. Well, some of these materials are not willing to participate as quickly as others. You cannot go. You cannot think of brown leaves uh, being as easy to work with for the microbes as a chunk of cardboard. Yes, it has a lot of carbon in it, but it's not going to release it right away. Uh, so I found this tool, and I'm not going to say this is the only one. There are many of these compost mix calculators, and if you look it up, always use compost mix calculator, because if you use compost calculator in your search, you're just going to get how to figure out how much compost to add to your yard. This is the one I'm going to show you examples of comes from Washington State University, and there are others, but it's just an example. So the perfect mix is the one you try, the one you get. You just try to balance them, and you definitely want to balance it because the microbes are going to like it. They're going to be more efficient, and things are going to go faster, and less chances for bad smell, like when there's too much nitrogen, or simply that it doesn't work as fast as you wanted it to go. Next slide, Brian, please. This is also from Washington State University publications, and I like this chart, and I don't. I mean, charts sometimes are confusing, but I think this is very simple. If you look at the curve on the top that says 30 to 1, and you follow the days when it peaks, maybe 5 days after you mix your materials in your pile, look where the temperature is, 160 degrees, just like the picture you saw when we started talking about temperature. So I think the a thermometer that doesn't have to be a compost thermometer, though. Yes, and they're inexpensive. You can get one. You can buy if you have a deep frying thermometer. That's probably as good. It could be used to monitor the activity in your pile. And this graph proves that yes, you want to mix it the best you can, but if you don't, and you just get it to 40 to 1 or even 60 to 1, it's still going to get hot, and it's still going to be good, but of course it's not going to go as fast. And at another meeting we'll talk about the microbes and how they're different at different temperatures. That's very interesting too, but just for the time of the presentation, we're just going to skip that conversation. But remember, it's all about the microbes, and if you please them, they'll be happy workers for you. Next slide, please. So this is an example from a compost mix calculator, different materials that I have: fruit waste, coffee grounds, vegetable waste, and then mix it with brown leaves to make a 30-to-1. And that's the equivalent. If you can collect fruit waste, coffee grounds, vegetable waste from all your friends in your neighborhood and relatives, and you can fill up a 33-gallon garbage container with those materials. I mean, if you can do that and you have saved brown leaves, you can use six containers full of brown leaves mixed with that container of stuff that you put together and build a pile. And that will fill the metal container that I showed you. And from then on, it's the microbes take over and they'll just break it down. Next slide. The next one, this is when you don't have all that much or those quantities, but you do what? A little container that you collect in your kitchen, and then you bring it out to your pile and you add it to it. Well, that calculation tells you that if you use a container like mine, and I'll show you that on the next slide, that container that I fill in my kitchen, well, how much brown leaves do I need to add to that container so it's a balanced uh, mix? Well, like a paper bag and a half will do that for you. Next slide, which is that. You see, my container is full. I'm going to bring it to the pile, and I put it, I spread it around, and then I cover it up with, let's say, shredded brown leaves. And you need 1.5, a bag and a half of shredded brown leaves. And the point is, whatever you add to the compost pile, make sure it's balanced, or try to bring it in the right proportion. If you cannot add just kitchen scraps and kitchen scraps and kitchen scraps. The microbes are not going to like it. They cannot work with that kind of balance. So what's going to happen? It's going to smell bad. All kind of insects are going to get in it. You're going to be really upset that you wasted time listening to me and didn't work. Well, listen to me. Whatever you put in that compost pile, make sure it's balanced. Every little tiny small amount you put in there, make sure it's balanced. And you know what? Things are going to work much better. Next slide, please. And yes, there are a few things that you should not put in the compost pile. And I'll tell you some of those things I will never put in my compost pile. But things like oils and grease from cooking and stuff, small amounts are not going to hurt them. But large amounts, yes, they'll mess up they'll kill the microbes. And that's the problem. Sometimes they either kill the microbes, sometimes they attract critters that you don't want in your pile and cause other problems. And vines, the vines grow, doesn't matter what. So be aware that, and of course, feces, I never thought that was a good idea. Other animals like rabbits, chicken, horses, and even cows, well, if you have access to those, yes. Before you use them, check with the mix calculator, because the manures are really high in nitrogen. So you need to know how much a brown stuff material you're going to need to balance it. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a lot. Next slide. And all kind of kitchen scraps, everything from my kitchen, all the kitchen scraps just go in the compost. I like to crush the shells. I tell everybody to remove the stickers from the bananas, but they don't do it. Little things like that, but everything goes in the compost, not in the garbage. Next, Brian. So the point about mixing materials in the compost pile, I always think of it as being a chef. I want to prepare something to please the microbes that are gonna be working in my compost pile. It's not me. I'm not gonna do the job. They're gonna do the job. So be nice to them. And you don't have to do this. I mean, you don't have to prepare a fancy presentation like that one. You don't have to bring candles on Friday when you add the stuff to the pile. Next slide, please. But you need to think of balance. Is the most important thing, because you want those microbes to be happy. Next slide. Those are my assistants. Of course, they don't think they like it. Next, please. So this is where it goes. And of course, this is a pile that I'm building. You see, I just brought my stuff from the kitchen, put it there. Next slide. Cover it up with the bag and a half of shredded. I don't even know what that is. I think that's from the sugar cane, brown leaf, something like that. And I wanted to finish up that pile, so I just went and ran my mower. Next slide, and just threw up a little bit of grass from the front yard. And at next slide, just more brown leaves from my oak. And that's it. The pile is finished. And it's great when it's finished, then you're done. It's the microbes turn to do their job. And if you look at the right, that's an old pile that should have been screened and used a long time ago. But you see, that's what's going to happen. They're just going to, they know what they have to do. All you have to do is help them a little bit, and man, they're going to have a party. Next slide, please. Sometimes brown leaves are carbon-rich materials are in need, but you don't have brown leaves, and then you have other options like shredded paper and things like that. And yes, I have to use them as well. The two things are always needed. You need a lot of containers because I mean, to save stuff, but save every brown leaf you can save. Have as many as you can, bags of brown leaves there on the side, because you're going to need them. I can guarantee you that. Remember that very soon, even when after the big freeze, everything is brown around Houston, very, very soon, everything is going to be green, and you're not going to find brown anything to provide the carbon-rich part of the equation. Next. The surface of the materials. Okay, very good. Next slide. It's another thing that will help make things go faster. The microbes that are going to be breaking down your materials in the pile, they work from the outside, from the surface. They start breaking down the material. So if you reduce the size of the materials, and then of course increases the working surface for those microbes, things are going to go fast. Next slide, Brian. So there is no question. Shred everything you can shred. Just shred it. Next. Try to reduce the size, whatever way you can do it. Next slide. Manually, mechanical, it doesn't matter. Step on it. If you can crush the leaves, just step on them. That's going to help. Just try to reduce the size, break the integrity, and the microbes are going to do the rest. Next. And I use my mower. I use my mower a lot. I don't have a shredder. I used to have a shredder at the gardens. And it's great, but it's another tool that you have to take care of. And my shredder is a basic shredder. This one is a push because I love it because it's lighter than one of the self-propel. So it's just a handier tool to just crush leaves in small branches. Next slide. I have a lot of cannas here in my yard. When they bloom, you cut them, chop them a little bit. And I always get the question about leaving the clippings on the grass, which is a good idea as long as you follow some basic rules, like never remove more than the 1/3 of the length of the blade. And so you have to mow your grass more frequently. And yes, you can leave them there. It's not going to hurt. I prefer to pick it up, use it as a nitrogen-rich material when mixing my pile, and then I return the compost to the grass. Next. Happened to me many times that I leave the brown leaves, and next day I come with the mower, and boom, there's always a little snake, garden snake, and I had killed so many by doing that. Please, before you do that, move the leaves around and make sure that you're not killing anything. Next slide. Aeration, and then we're going to do aeration and moisture. And air is essential. Next, Brian. Air in your pile is essential for the microbes that we want to do the job, to be happy and able to do it. When you throw the materials in the pile, they catch air pockets, and the microbes are going to use that air. And since you mix it, since you made a good mix, they're going to be very happy, and they're going to start breaking those materials. And then the pile is going to start decreasing in size with smaller particles, and of course, compacting. So you need to incorporate air to the pile. And the air you incorporate to the pile, it has to be by turning it so it captures more, or creates more air pockets, so they can be used by the microbes. So fluffy, the appearance of a fluffy, loose material, that's perfect. The next slide then is well, how do you do it? The pitchfork is king, but I use tools too, and I mean, I sometimes have 3, 4, 5 piles. So pitchfork is really, I'll say, work demanding, effort demanding. It's tough. So, but it's great to be able to toss your materials from one side to the other. Awesome. But there are other ways. Next. So, moisture. So we talk about air, and now we're going to talk about moisture. And we got an okay to squeeze and touch the compost. It's a great relationship that we keep with the compost. So we need to touch it, squeeze it, and you can buy all kind of gadgets to measure the moisture content in your pile, which should be between 40 and 60%. But if you stick your hand and you squeeze it, and when you release it, it doesn't crumble away, crumble down. It stays with that shape that tells you it has an acceptable moisture content. But when you squeeze it, it drips. That might be a little bit too much water. And what happens is that, remember, water and air are there, and they're in a balance. If you put too much water, or it's raining too much, then it just pushes the air out of the pile, and you have to incorporate, you have to turn it to incorporate more air and keep that balance between good moisture, but also air for the microbes to work. Next, please. Okay, so I guess we can stop here and answer a few questions before we go on how to use the compost. And the question about, are we there yet? Brian, was that the question?
I'm so sorry, Carlos. Can you say that again? I missed you.
The question we had before about when is the compost ready?
We did, yeah. How do you know when your compost is ready? Is this what we're here? Are we there?
That's the question. Are we there yet?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. And this is a basic rule. And I'll tell you, if you cannot recognize the original materials, that compost is ready and ready to be used. I like to say that for us that use compost in potted to improve potting soil, you might want to have compost that it's like 4 months. I read something about it a long time ago. I can't remember why, but I just followed that. So I'll share that with you. You do your own investigation. But as far as I'm concerned, for everything else, if it's ready, it's ready. Okay. So when you cannot recognize the original materials, you did it. Okay. Any questions?
We've got tons of questions. Yeah, I'd love to ask you some more questions. Let's see. So let me go back. And we had a question backing up a little bit about containers. I have a spinning compost bin that usually works great. However, right now it's not heating up. It got a little wet, so I added dry leaves and the saturation is better, but still not heating. I've tried adding blood meal. Any suggestions for our spinning compost user?
Well, it's hard for me without seeing the container.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to answer this the same way I answer golf questions. No, I'm not a golf instructor, but every time I have a problem or somebody has a golf problem with the swing, I say, well, this is what I hear on TV. Go back to the basic things. Check your
Mm-hmm.
grip, check your stance, check the ball location. Well, if you're having a problem like that, and of course I'll say, well, you need to check. Maybe those micros don't have anymore the right balance in the materials. There are the existing materials in your pile. Maybe it's too wet. Maybe it's or too dry. Not enough air. Maybe the materials that you use are because I can't see it, so I don't know. Maybe you didn't reduce their size. Um, this is very, I'll say, this is very straightforward. Composting is very straightforward. You do the basics, and it works. I mean, there is no reason why not. So without more information, seeing what you're seeing, but I'll tell you what. Send if you want, send a question to the Ask the Master Gardener. They'll ask me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get back to you, and we'll find a better answer if that was enough. But
Mm-hmm.
go to the basics, and you'll figure it out.
I think that's a great answer. And so before I do forget, please make sure to like and share our videos. We're getting tons of questions, and so we're not going to get to answer everything on air, but we're going to ask a couple more now, and then anything that we don't answer, please keep an eye on the chat because we'll go back and re-answer it. So I have another question. Let's see. It's, can I add last season's container soil to compost? Will this revive the used soil?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
It's, can I add last season's container soil to compost? Will this revive the used soil? So using last season's container soil.
Referring to, I guess, potting soil from last year container.
Yeah, that's what they're asking.
No, I wouldn't. Well, I don't think it's gonna hurt. Some people don't like to do that, and it has to do with the I think it's a vermiculite or perlite, one of them. I I really never care much about it, but I heard that that's not a good idea. I still don't understand why. So what I'll do, no, what I do, not what I will do, what I do all the time. Do, I don't put those in the compost. I make the compost, and then when I'm mixing my potting soil, you can add those old ones and then enrich them with compost, which is going to be the missing component because obviously the compost was taken. I mean, so and then enrich it, and you can enrich it as high as I think I mentioned this before, up to 20%. 20% of your potting soil could be enriched with compost, meaning one part compost, three parts your potting soil. Try that, and if it works, send me a message, and if not, don't say anything.
Don't send me a message.
Yeah, just call Brian.
Okay, so let's go ahead. I want to make sure we have time to finish up our presentation. So we're going to hold. We might come back for one or two questions at the very end. But Carlos, let's go ahead and see if we can get through the rest, and then we'll see how much time we've got. So let's take it away.
We're gonna, one of my favorite things, what to do with all that compost that you are gonna be making. Oh, you're gonna make a lot of compost. I love to screen compost. The finished product, I like to screen it. I think it's easier to use. You see, the different materials that you put in your pile, including little branches and things like that, they're not gonna break. They're not all gonna break at the same speed. So the compost is gonna be finished, but you're going to have materials that are not done, and that's okay. So I screen it. Next slide. I screen it, and whatever goes through the screen I use, and what as compost. Next, Brian, please. The some other materials that don't go through the screen because they're larger, and it's like they're not turned into things that you cannot recognize. You know what? I use those as mulch, especially on my vegetable beds, because that's what I'm going to eat. So I don't want to buy a bag of something mulch from the store that came from Louisiana somewhere. I'd rather use for that particular use, my own mulch. So important to know that mulch is one thing and compost is another. Mulch wants to be compost, wants to get to be like compost, but it's not there yet. It needs more time because it's harder to break down materials. It's going to require all other microbes and to finish the job and more time. But it could be used as mulch. Mulch has the importance of being like a blanket to cover, protect the soil from the rain, from losing moisture, from weeds and things like that. And eventually it's going to break down, and yes, it's going to get to the roots, and then it's going to be used. Compost is one step further. It just broke down to the end. And it could be mixed with the soil, and the roots are going to use the nutrients, and the soil is going to benefit from all those all that activity that has to do with organic matter, microbes in the soil. So I like to screen my compost. Next, please. So I screen it like that. It's very simple from the pile. Next. You see the size, you can see the leaves, you can see branches. That's not finished. It's almost there. But that is mulch, and that I'm gonna use it as that. Next. You see the mulch goes on top. That bed, I put some compost in it when I was preparing, and then planted some plants, and then some in pots, and then covered up with mulch. That's the difference between mulch and compost. Next, that is compost. Next, that is compost. I forgot to ask at the very first picture we saw about compost that I always ask if it's commercial or homemade, and well, I can ask now, do you think that's commercial or homemade? And I'll answer the question. Of course, it is homemade because I see eggshells. And I have to say that I have never seen commercial compost with eggshells on it. I've never seen it. Maybe you have. Next, and I forgot to mention that I like to blend. Yeah, not that it makes a big difference, but I like to blend different piles, and then I use it. So what to do to improve the soil in vegetable beds and flower beds, potting soil? I already mentioned that. I like to top dress my turf. If I can do it a couple times a year, I'm very happy. That reduces the amount of fertilizer if I use any fertilizer on my turf. Deep root, and of course bag it and give it a instead of gift cards or wine. Make compost tea, spray it. All those are good uses for compost. Next, and I mean, what could be better than that? Gifts. What is it? A baby shower? You bring your bag of compost. Wow, this is awesome. Next, I do all my grow all my seeds in my compost, and you can tell it works. Next, potted for potted plants, as I mentioned before. I don't know how it works for potted cats, but we can find it. Next, in my vegetable beds. Next, tilling. I do tilling, and I'm kind of moving away from it. It's a question for topic for another discussion. More and more, tilling is losing popularity. Let's just say that. Uh, that's we'll talk about that some other day. But I still do sometimes. I need to remove those roots from the trees in my bed. Next, compost. All kind of ideas for how to make compost on the internet. Not for me to go into that, but just to mention it, and I think it's a great thing. All things natural are good, so why not? Next, so where do you put your compost pile? I can tell you where mine is. It's going to be in the shade, because how in this world will you have your compost pile in the middle of the yard in under direct sun? How are you going to work there? That's crazy. So you need some companion plants. Next, Brian. So there's my compost area. I have what 3-4 containers, just in a corner, covered so nobody can see it. Shade. Those banana trees are really big, and they protect me from the west sun, so I can go there anytime and work. You don't need the sun hitting your compost to for the pile to heat up. You already know because you attended this presentation that the heat comes from mixing it right and the microbes just breaking down those materials, releasing releasing the energy. Next. So evergreens just to hide it. A lot of those things, like the bananas, are going to go in the compost. Like now, I have a lot of dead bananas. I'm going to chop them, and they're going to be a source of nitrogen, and they're ready. They're next. Okay, next slide. Vines. I cut that vine a long time ago. There was a vine throwing seeds in my pile. Oh, that was a big battle for me to decide to cut it, and I eventually did. Next, please. So I hope you're not sleepy. You see, that's a cat that was under the leaves. Came back. Next. So, like any other thing you do, it's like cooking again. Get your recipe, put it together. If it doesn't work, then that's okay. Try again. No big loss. You get it. It's very straightforward. It's just doing it, and you'll get it. Next. It is a miracle drug. I think it's the best one. It's the most important thing you need to add to your beer. Next, and I think the final slide. I love my yard. My kids grew up in that yard. My grandsons are running around that yard now. I provide that soil with the best things I can provide it with. I try to stay as much as I can away from chemicals and things that I don't trust. The more natural you do things, I think the better nature takes it. So enjoy your yard and add more compost. So Brian, I'm all yours.
Okay, so in a little bit later, let's ask maybe one or two more questions, and then for everyone else, you're going to put the answers to your questions in the Facebook chat. So we're going to get a couple more here. Let's see. We're going to do. Can you hear me?
Brian.
You can't hear me. Interesting. I'm not sure why you can't hear me. Let me try one moment and see what happens. Is that any better? Can you hear me? Am I back? Still strange. Okay, I'm getting notice that it's still strange. I think we're just going to have to end our program here. I'm not sure why we're getting installation. Everything seems to be going okay. It's on our end. It's going to start connection here at the library. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope we can see that. And our next program that we have will be April 20th, Tuesday at 11 o'clock. We will be discussing butterfly gardening. Ooh, that would be a lot of fun. So Carlos, I want to say thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you. And we will join you again next time.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Make some compost.